All right, let's take a look at the All-State Playoff Predictor. Week 11 of the college football season is sure to give us plenty of answers, but maybe none as informative as Michigan's first true test of the season on the road against Penn State. Michigan has a couple of interesting scenarios here. If they win out, they win the Big Ten title game, 99%. If they lose to PSU, win Big Title game, there's 93%. Wins out, loses Big Ten title game, 76%. Loses to OSU, doesn't make the Big Ten title game, 37%. Now, prior to tonight's rankings, the 9-0 Wolverines currently have a 44% chance of making the playoff. A loss on the road to the Nittany Lions would definitely put on the pressure. However, if you look at Michigan's 3 remaining opponents, this is what it looks like. According to the All-State Playoff Predictor, Michigan has a better chance of beating Ohio State than Penn State. So, knowing that, Dallin Cuff, what does that say about Penn State?
They're playing at home. I think that's the long and the short of that to me. That's when you look at how small that percentage change is. It's home field and college football and college sports, as we were talking about before, basketball too. It's a huge impact on outcomes of games in terms of how young people play, the refereeing, the experience, all of it. All that factors in. So I do think Penn State is good. Penn State's not the same team that Ohio State is, but when you play them at home, as Penn State is, gives you a better chance. In the big house, Ohio State, not the best situation for them.
That's true.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it more at the end of the show, but Drew Aller is going to be a huge reason why Penn State is able to compete in this game. Just last week, he had his best game of the entire season, throwing for 240 yards and 4 touchdowns. We haven't seen Drew Aller necessarily be successful throwing the ball down the field. So not only that for the Penn State offense, their defense was shut down. Y'all want to know how many rushing yards Maryland had in this game? Negative 49.
I thought that was a mistake. It's right? Negative 40 during the game. I'm like, what? That can't be right, right?
Unreal. They're the lowest that they've had in school history. So the Penn State defense has been the strength of their team all year long. So when I look at Michigan and the type of competition that they've faced, it's going to be a little bit of a shocker when you go against this Penn State defense that can put the clamps down on you. You feel me, Christine?
Wow, that was intense. Okay, when you look at the CFP, we talk about Washington a little bit. Do you think that there's a chance, I don't know why I said Washington, do you think that there's a chance that there could be 2 Big Ten teams in the CFP by the end of the season?
I think it's all how that plays out. But there's a route to make that happen if they only lose to each other. Michigan has to beat Penn State, as Ohio State did.
Right.
And then one of them loses the other. You need Florida State to lose to somebody to knock out an ACC team. You need a Pac-12 team, I think, to lose to an opponent that's not a quality opponent.
Right.
And then you have yourself a different situation. Obviously, if Georgia falls too, the more one-loss teams you have, then you put all the cooks in the kitchen, and then you get into some resume, but you get into eye test. And then in Michigan, if they throttle a Penn State on the road, that's a really good win. And if you go and lose at home to Ohio State, that'd be shocking, but you can find a way to justify it. I don't think it'll end up happening. I think I have too much respect. I think the Pac-12 is good and should send a team. I think Florida State's not going to lose a game. I think the SEC is definitely going to get one in there. And your Texas argument does remain potent if they win out in a convincing fashion.
So someone in the chat called us Texas haters because apparently we're not putting into fact that they have lost their starting quarterback. So shout out to whoever was in the chat. You have a great point. Malik Murphy is not their starting quarterback, redshirt freshman. But back to your question, Christine, of the Big Ten getting 2 teams in, I don't think it's right. The more that I look at it, in terms of the best team getting in the playoffs, if they're all beating each other up, you're going to look at it and say, all right, Michigan, you faced your first real opponent in Penn State or Ohio State, and then you lose that game. So how are you...
Even if it's a close game?
But we're looking at the other way around, because if Michigan wins both those games and Ohio State is the one loss, do we respect Ohio State's resume and what they put on wax more? Yeah. Because it's not just one. That's why I think it's all about the permutations of who won, who lost, and who else lost. But I think your best bet is Ohio State being the one-loss team, not Michigan, given their resume.
That makes sense. Also, obviously, their higher ranking. Okay, fans, be sure to check out ESPN.com/All-State Playoff Predictor to check out your team's chances of making the CFP.
Give me something.